Stand for me?
Sure.
Why is the Y chromosome so much smaller than the X chromosome?
Just is. It doesn't hold much information.
Like always, it's going to be like
Yeah,
that?
it always is in humans.
Okay.
I don't know about other animals. Now you can see, let me show you what they'll do. A lot of times women, when they're pregnant, will get what's called an amniocentesis done, where the doctor sticks a needle in and sucks out some fluid from around the baby's body. That fluid will have in it cells from the baby. You can also get cells from the baby by putting a tube through the mother's vagina and sucking out cells from the placenta. The placenta is the organ that feeds the baby, and it has the baby's cells in it as well.
Don't be scared.
Graham, are you making extra comments that aren't needed?
Yes, actually, Graham.
Did we already discuss why I don't like that?
I'm sorry.
So they suction out some cells that belong to the baby. Then they put them under a microscope. A computer takes a picture of the chromosomes and then constructs a karyotype.
There you go.
And they can count the chromosomes. So they can tell you, first of all, if your baby's male or female at a very young age using this. And they can also tell if there's some problems. I want you to look at this karyotype here. This is a karyotype of somebody with a problem. See if you can locate the problem.
I think I
21, Down
How about
syndrome.
you raise your hands over me?
They have 3 parts of chromosome 21. If you have 3 of chromosome 21, it causes a disorder known as Down syndrome.
Why?
Well, it's basically like you're supposed to have 1 copy from your mom and 1 copy from your dad, but this child got 2 copies somehow from its mom or dad, and that made 3 total 21 chromosomes. It's like extra information that you don't need, that the cell doesn't need. And by having that extra information in there that the cell doesn't need, it screws up somehow. It makes mistakes.
They should have made it smarter.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like,
You would think, but that's not the way it works. Yes, question, Ellen Grace.
Why does it happen? Why is there like 6% chance of it happening to like the kid is born if the mother's like over 45 or something?
Well, I'll show you how the mistake happens. It's called non-disjunction. And then we'll talk about that. Yeah.
on that like picture that has like all like the 23 like lined up.
Yes.
What we saw
That's called a karyotype.
on the karyotype.
Uh-huh.
Are they actually that color, or is that like a heat thing?
No, that's a chemical thing. The computer has injected some chemicals that stick to different parts and make it different colors.
That's cool.
So the computer does that.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But it's how the computer pairs them up. Because in actuality, they're scattered all over the place. They're not side by side like this.
Right.
And the computer puts them together.
And also, why are some bent and some aren't?
That's just the way they were laying there when the picture was taken. You know, if you had something that was long, it might be straight, it might be bent.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
So does that extra chromosome like confuse the cell?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what happens. The extra chromosome confuses itself. Now, let me show you how this happens. How do you get an extra chromosome? It all goes back to meiosis. Now, I'm going to do meiosis real quick for you up here. I'm not going to draw the cell and all the spindle fibers. That takes too long. But in prophase 1, remember the chromosomes come together. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And they cross over. Do you remember crossing over?
Yes. Oh, now the cell's confused. Shit.
Crossing over.
There's nothing.
And then in metaphase 1, they line up in the middle. Everybody watch. And then in anaphase 1, they separate. We're going to make sperms or eggs here, remember. And then telophase 1, we have 2 cells on either side. And then it goes through those steps again. Prophase 1, then metaphase 1, they line up in the middle. And it happens on both sides. Now get ready. Here's where the mistake is made. Anaphase 2 of meiosis. We're about to make sperm cells. They separate, right, in the middle and go to opposite sides.
You do.
The Okay, everything happened normal there. And we end up forming a sperm cell down here with half the chromosomes, a haploid sperm cell. That's good. And up here we form a haploid sperm cell with 3 chromosomes. That's good. We started with 6. We have 3 there. Everything's okay there. Watch what happens over here. These split and go to opposite sides. Split and go to opposite sides. Didn't go to opposite sides. Not good. Bennett, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm watching.
You seem like you're sleeping.
I have this eye covered, but this eye is staring
Cover neither eye.
at you.
So this one doesn't split. They both go down here. And so that will form a sperm cell with an extra little chromosome.
Imagine that.
And if this sperm cell invades a normal egg, let's say this is a normal egg, and this sperm cell invaded the normal egg, then you would have, it's my turn. You would have 2 copies of the big one, 2 copies of the medium one, but 3 copies of the small one.
Uh-oh.
And if you have 3 copies of a chromosome,
You're retarded.
that's a mistake. It's called a trisomy.
Hey.
It's not bad.
It's called a trisomy. Yes.
So, is it any of them that have 3 is automatically Down syndrome, or is just one mess up? It's something that's going on. Or does anything that have 3 automatically mean Down syndrome?
No, it's not.
It's
It
3
depends
and
on
21.
which 3 it is.
3 and the 21 is Down
Okay, so
syndrome.
it has to be in the 21 group.
Yeah.
21st group, not 21 group.
Yeah, if you have a trisomy, listen up. When you get 3 chromosomes of one kind, it's called a trisomy. And if it's a trisomy of 21, that ends up, that fertilized egg will grow into a Down syndrome baby. Every cell will have 3 copies of chromosome 21 because every cell is a copy of the first. So in a Down syndrome child, every cell in their body has 3 copies of chromosome 21, and that screws things up. And it causes all these problems with Down syndrome. Yes, question?
Oh, that's on chromosome 21, or as you said?
Uh-huh.
What happens if there's 3 on chromosome 20?
3 on chromosome 20 does not survive.
So any other one but 21 doesn't survive?
Not any other one. I'm going to show you some others. But
What's
most of
20?
them don't survive.
What's 20?
But if there's 3 of 21, that survives.
What's chromosome 20?
It's just got other information. I don't know what 21 has.
Nibble.
I can tell you the difference.
Nibble. Yes.
Down syndrome.
John Langdon Down, an English doctor, first described the syndrome that came to bear his name in 1866, about the same time that Gregor Mendel was conducting his famous experiments on garden peas. He found that children characterized by this syndrome exhibited several distinctive physical and mental characteristics.
That's it?
That was all there was there.
It was like 26 seconds.
Here's what happens if you have Down syndrome. Mental retardation, epicanthic folds, which are folds of the skin near the eye. Small head, macroglossia means big tongue. High arched palate, the roof of their mouth goes way up. And that's why if you hear a Down syndrome child talking, it doesn't sound right, because they have the roof of their mouth is real high. Spade hands, they have weird looking hands. Semi-increased, that's another fold of skin in the hands. Hypermobile joints, their joints don't just stop there, it keeps going a little bit. It's like double jointed almost. Hypotonia is a water retention, so they're all kind of puffy looking. So all that is caused by having 3 chromosomes 21s. Yes, and they live shorter.
With the palate, the mouth thing, would that interfere with the other stuff in your head?
Yeah, it may, I don't know. They may have some other problems there.
Vagina.
So that's Down syndrome. There's no cure.
How long do you live?
Now, women will get these procedures done to check if their baby has 3 of 21. And if their baby does have 3 of 21, like it or not, a lot of women will get abortions.
What's the average lifespan?
I don't know, but it's less.
Like
50.
Like much less?
Yeah, it's pretty pretty significantly less.
Do they grow?
Yeah, they're adults with them.
Isn't that guy named The Ringer? Does he have Down syndrome?
Yeah.
Where?
The guy from The Ringer.
Is there so many people with Down
I've never seen
syndrome
them
exactly like him?
Okay, what's wrong with this girl?
She has.
Her ex.
She's got something called Turner syndrome.
The X, there's no
So
Y.
14, 13.
No, she
There's only one X.
Now, there's only one X. Now remember, XX is female,
She didn't get a chromosome from her dad.
XY is male.
She's a he, she.
Now, we talked about if this sperm fertilized an egg, you would have 3 of this chromosome. But what if this sperm fertilized the egg?
filled one.
Let's take a look. If this sperm fertilized a normal egg, you'd have 2 of the big, 2 of the medium, but only 1 of the small. We call it a monosomy, when you only have 1 of a certain type of chromosome. And if you only have 1 of chromosome 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the cell dies. It never forms into a human, the fertilized egg. But if you only have 1 sex chromosome, and it's the X chromosome, that will grow into a human too. And that human has Turner syndrome. It's a different syndrome. It's not Down syndrome. It's different. It has different abnormalities. People have different looks. Here's everything they have. Low hairline, shield-shaped thorax, widely spaced nipples, shortened metacarpals, number 4, that's in their bones. Small fingernails, brown spots on the skin, no menstruation, rudimentary ovaries, underdeveloped gonadal structures, they can't have kids. Elbow deformity, poor breast development, constriction of aorta, that's some problem in their heart, a fold of skin on their neck, that's characteristic, and their face looks different. There's a girl with Turner syndrome. It's always female because there's no Y chromosome. You have to have a Y chromosome to have to be a man. So
He's got 2 X's and a
what's
Y.
wrong with him?
You got
2
two
X's and a Y.
He's got an extra X. Now, since he has a Y,
He is a boy.
he's a boy. If you have a Y, you're going to be male.
He's so cute.
And you're going to
The
form
he, she.
testes instead of ovaries. What's wrong with people with this syndrome? It's called Klinefelter syndrome.
He's
Feminine.
so cute though.
Well, here's what's wrong with them.
He, she.
They have a tendency to grow fewer chest hairs. They have breast development. They have a female-type pubic hair pattern. They have small testicular size. They have long arms and legs, wide hips, and narrow shoulders, and poor beard growth. They're very, very feminine in characteristics, but they're men. They have testes and penis and the man part. Here's a guy with Klinefelter syndrome. This is a poly-X female. Poly-X female are females with more than 2 X chromosomes. Sometimes they have 3 X chromosomes, sometimes they have 4 X chromosomes. By the way, if you want to look up pictures of poly-X people on the internet, don't just type in XXX. That's what I did, and I got stuff that wasn't poly-X.
I did that and got the poly-X.
So anyway, these people, poly-X females, have a trisomy or even 4 X chromosomes, and they look a little different, but for the most part, they don't have anything wrong with them. They can still have kids. They do have some characteristic facial features.
That's the guy in the middle.
You've probably seen people like this and not known it. You may have seen people with Klinefelter syndrome and Turner syndrome and not known it. You probably realize it when you see someone with Down syndrome. They're more distinctive. So, this type of stuff can result from what we call non-disjunctions. Be thankful that you have all your chromosomes correctly. And also, understand that people who don't and do have problems, they were just unlucky. This happens in 1 in 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, depending on the disorder. Some disorders are more common than others. But it's pretty much chance. Now, older parents, if you try to have kids when you're 30, 40 years old, if you're a woman, you tend to have more Down syndrome kids. Even older men tend to have more Down syndrome kids. But that makes sense because the older you are, the more copies of copies your cells are. You know, cells just come from other cells. And so when the cells will copy themselves, and every time cells copy themselves, they make small mistakes.
So what's the
It's just like when you photocopy something. If you copy the copy, it's got more little marks on it. And if you copy the copy, it's got even more marks on it. And so the older you get, your cells are just copies of copies of copies, and they aren't as perfect as they were anymore. Look at the skin of an old person compared to the skin of a young person. It's not as perfect as it was. So if you are an old person and you're trying to have kids, you do have more opportunities for mistakes to happen in cells, and the cells that are supposed to mix up the chromosomes and move them correctly. It can get screwed up. Yeah.
So what's the good age to have a child?
Like 15, 16.
Truthfully, healthier kids come from younger ages.
And my kids-
They don't tell you all about that because your parents don't want you having kids when you're 16. But really, the younger the kid, the younger you are, the healthier the kid. But saying that, medicine is so good now, you pretty much will probably have a healthy kid, even if you're having one at 35 or 40. Again, the chances of Down syndrome are 1 in 3,000, or 1 in 5,000, or 10,000. It's not like it's, you know, if you're having a kid when you're 40, that chance might go from 1 in 5,000 to 2 in 5,000, but it's still not much of a chance. Question?
But, so did you say same thing with like the dad though? Because I know my friend.
Yeah, it matters more for the mom.
72,
It matters more for the mom, but it does. Statistics show that older dads have a greater chance of problems. But again, even though it's a greater chance, it's still a low chance. So if you're,
because her mom's young and even though.
yeah, it would help if the mom was young. Yeah. Graham?
What happens if like on the graph majig thing, that thing behind you? What if like you're missing?
Karyotype.
What if you're missing one of the chromosomes? Will the baby just like not form?
That's what you're missing. Like both of them.
Yeah.
You're missing both of them?
Completely number 11.
Yeah, baby wouldn't form. Cell wouldn't grow.
Okay.
And usually it doesn't. Usually, Graham, it doesn't even grow if you're missing one.
Oh.
The only ones that grow if you're missing one are ones that are missing the Y, and they're just a single X, and that forms Turner syndrome that we talked about. Yeah.
What do you know what number 1 is?
What's on number
I
1?
know, what does number 1 control?
I know.
I'm asking if like,
There's probably 5,000 genes on
okay,
it.
what if there's an extra number 1?
That would end up killing the
Your
cell
head
too.
would explode.
Okay, so like if it doesn't give you disease, you're just not going to form.
That's correct.
Actually,
That's
there's
correct.
actually one
If you have too many of any of
these.
these, the organism will not form.
Okay.
Really? Oh.
But there are just like some special circumstances where it'll keep growing, just have problems.
Only on 21. And a couple of the other ones. There are a couple of them that hardly ever happen that aren't talked about here. But the ones it covers in the book are the major ones. I think a triple 15 sometimes forms and then dies at birth. And I can't remember. I've seen it in a book somewhere studying genetics. Okay? So, you can turn that off.